Time to discuss the teams most likely to make a run in the college football playoff, top players, top coaches, and the schedules next on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're going to be talking about the college football playoff contenders, a few teams you might want to label pretenders, and some of them are truly national championship possibilities. We're going to be looking at a broad spectrum today and tomorrow. Going to focus on more than 12 teams overall because there's a few on the cusp, and you could talk me one way or the other whether they're going to make the playoff, but I am pretty steadfast on my final group, and I'm going to explain why. Here are the key points. Quarterback play, players coming up that you think need to step up to make that team not just good, but truly a contender. Do they have the recruiting chops to get there? Did they find a couple of guys in the portal? Whether it's Clemson, Ohio State, Boise State, Oregon, Notre Dame, you name it, everybody still has to find players. And of course, here on the Portal Podcast, it's all about roster management through recruiting, the transfer portal, and NIL. And that's how we're going to approach this. So again, the key is who can make it to the college football playoff and actually do something. Today and tomorrow, we're going to be breaking down the teams that I think at least have a shot. Today's teams are pretty straightforward. If you're watching on YouTube, and this is in no particular order, but Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson, Arizona State, Kansas State, Boise State, and Ole Miss. These are just some of them. I'm going to go over about the same number tomorrow, right around 15 or so overall. And these are the programs I think have a shot, again, to make a run in the college football playoff. Let's start off with the defending champs. They won it last year. Let's go with Ohio State. Ryan Day and the Buckeyes lost their front four on the defensive line, so obviously that's a question. But they don't feel sorry for Ohio State. They've got a lot of guys. Kenyatta Jackson coming off the bench. They got Bo Atkinson that transferred in from North Carolina. They've got guys up front. I'm not really worried about their D-line because Larry Johnson's recruited it well, and they've got a good scheme. They'll be okay there. The bigger question for me is the one that most people in Buckeye land are asking. Is Julian Sayin ready? Is there going to be a combination? Is there any concern about the quarterback position? All these things are just up in the air. We don't know until they play. And oh, by the way, they do open with Texas. We'll talk about that in a little bit when they come to the Horseshoe to play that first game. What a great game for the opening weekend of college football, by the way. So you got Julian Sayin is my guess on how that's going to end at quarterback. I'm not going to get into that. I'll let Ohio State fans, anybody else, take their pick. I need to watch the first game. But either way, Ohio State's quarterback recruiting has been very, very good any direction they go. And even if they played the freshman, like he's really good too. So we'll figure that out later. But I do know that Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, and that guy Jeremiah Smith are very good. And that's just a starting point. They have depth at wide receiver as well. And they also have tight ends and running backs that can catch the football. They are a very well-equipped offense. That is a unit that has been recruited at an elite level pretty much every year. The biggest question for the Ohio State Buckeyes is twofold with the offensive line. Who, by the way, had some really good guys, a few of them going to the draft, but they also had some guys come in from the portal or come up the ranks out of the high school ranks that have been on the roster a year or two. We need to see who gets slotted where. There's been some movement lately. I'm going to check on that again the day before the Texas game because it just seems like they've really been trying every option from reading the tea leaves around the internet on Ohio State football. They're not letting a ton out, obviously, at Ohio State with Texas being their first game in a couple of weeks. But they've got talent. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm overwhelmingly concerned about the O-line, but when your first game is Texas, there's a chance that it doesn't go well. Texas brought in 5 guys from the transfer portal at D-tackle. I mean, they just went hog wild. And I think that they're going to be a lot to deal with because they're brought in a lot of size, a lot of experience. We will see how Ohio State handles that. But again, don't feel too bad. The second part of the O-line, though, is they brought a guy in from Virginia Tech that I don't know very much about to be the O-line coach. I don't think that's his normal bag. Is this something that he's ready to take on with all the pressure? Ohio State fans will certainly let it be known if they're not happy with the O-line play. But last year, again, they figured it out in the middle of the year, and things have changed since then. So they've set that standard, winning the title. So there's a lot to live up to. On defense, it starts with Caleb Downs. Elite player, maybe the best pure player in college football, maybe even more so than Jeremiah. You could argue that. And they also have Sonny Styles, a guy that I always thought was really good. But the player that I'm most curious about to see how he does is Edric Houston, the defensive tackle that came out of Buford High School in Georgia. He's been banged up a little bit heading into this season. I don't know where that stands. I assume he's going to be ready in some capacity. But if he is not, that changes that game a little bit. I saw him play in high school. That is a dude. You can't lose big-time defensive tackles before playing Texas and expect that to go great. On that note, and we'll talk about Texas tomorrow, Texas also lost one of their backup offensive tackles. So every team has injuries all the time. It's just part of it. You got to adjust. And if you're Ohio State, you're expected to find those pieces. But again, Ohio State has recruited at an elite level. They're not taking very many guys from the portal because they don't have to, which reduces their risk of being a team that's going to just be good. And instead, they're much more likely to be a top 5, top 18 conservatively. If they won it again, would it surprise me? Absolutely not. And we'll talk about my final picks on tomorrow's show for who's going to be in the final game and the whole ball of wax as the winner. Next up, this is a team that they played last year, so let's just go with them in the final. That is the University of Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish, led by Marcus Freeman, had a breakthrough season, but they did it with a transfer quarterback in Riley Leonard. Now they're transitioning, much like Ohio State, to a new quarterback. This is another team that I think is in contention, but they've got question marks on both sides of the ball, and it starts behind center. Is it CJ Carr? Is it Kenny Minchie? Will both end up playing this year? I don't know. There is one thing I do know. Mike Denbrock is an excellent offensive coordinator. He was a recent offensive coordinator at LSU when their quarterback won the Heisman. He knows what it looks like. He did really well at developing players at Notre Dame in a prior stint, or actually 2 prior stints, and at Cincinnati. He's a veteran. They'll be good at quarterback. They may not be what LSU was a couple of years ago with Daniels, but that's beside the point. The bigger point of this is they got Jeremiah Love. They got Malachi Fields. They've got a lot of talent at wide receiver, running back, and don't forget about Eli Raridon at tight end. Up front is the bigger question for some. Charles Jagusa, former 5-star, depending on which recruiting service you want to go with, is out for a while with a broken arm. I have no idea what the date is. I'm not sure Notre Dame knows either for him to come back. But they're so loaded. One of the guys competing, he's not even a lock, to start at his spot is another 5-star in Gerby Lambert, a redshirt freshman out of the Boston area. They're not exactly hurting there. I would imagine Notre Dame's going to have a top 5 offensive line. Ashton Craig, I think, is one of the best centers in college football. Not many are talking about him, but he got hurt 3 games into last season. I'd forgotten that he'd only played 3 games until I looked him up on Pro Football Focus. Really key player. And they've just got a ton of experience there. So with Jeremiah Love, probably the most gifted running back in college football in that backfield, Jadarian Price, and a just boatload of talent at the skill spots, they should be very explosive. Now it's just about those quarterbacks figuring it out. Maybe one takes the lead, maybe one doesn't. But if they are even above average at that spot, they're going to be explosive on offense. Defensively, my biggest question is defensive tackle. Jason Onye is pretty good, but he hasn't played a ton, and he missed part of last year. They've got other guys up front that are good, that have always played, but are they really going to be a dominant interior group? I don't think so. Heinisch, a guy that's really athletic and probably underrated by Notre Dame fans, might be the other starter. On the edges, though, is where they are just ridiculous. Bryce Young and Boubacar Traore are probably the most gifted. Bryce Young is the son of Bryant Young, former NFL player, Notre Dame player, and a Hall of Famer. 6'7", 270-something. He's one of the freakier players in college football. Curious to see what he does this year. Drake Bowen in the middle, deep secondary, Adon Schuler, Leonard Moore, Christian Gray at the corners. They have an NFL-laden defense, to say the least, but everything still comes down to the quarterback situation. So we'll look at that. overall as the biggest question, and I really don't think there's number two. Now, for Ohio State and Notre Dame, I want to do this in conjunction. I want to talk about their schedule. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football gets started this upcoming weekend with Farmageddon, Iowa State, and Kansas State. So whether you're got your eye on the big name quarterback, a breakout running back, or anything else, PrizePicks makes it easy to stay in the game. For me, I'm more of a college guy, but when I think about the NFL, the guy that I think is going to have a very good year and maybe even make a run in the chase for the Super Bowl is Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I just think that he has a special it factor. He's my pick to win MVP. If it's not Mahomes, I think it'll be one of the two. And if you want to look at the opportunity for a defensive player of the year, or if you're looking at the top receiver, there's all kinds of different ways to have fun with that on PrizePicks. Download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. This show is also brought to you by DripDrop. If you're not staying on top of your routine, whether it's with your workouts or anything, it can be some long days on campus or anything else, but to stay focused and get back through all those classes and everything else, hydration is always where it starts, and that's where DripDrop comes into play. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better, feel better, bend better, everything else. It changes my energy, my mood, and everything else around that. So even my skin, everything changes, and fluids are a big part of that. That's why DripDrop is a great way to stay hydrated. DripDrop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. So whether you're going to a workout or you've had a long day at work, DripDrop is a great way for you to stay hydrated. Right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On customers 20% off your first order. Just head over to DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest college football information, transfer portal, recruiting, college football preseason, all my different predictions, all right here on the Portal Podcast. Like and subscribe. Hit that automatic download if you're listening anywhere out there on a run or anything else that you're doing. So let's talk about the schedule for Ohio State and Notre Dame and just kind of compare and like how this works. It's different for every team, and it makes college football unique. Here are a couple of things that are unique for both these teams. They both start off big. A lot of times, college football teams, they take the weak route early out of the gate, like Penn State's schedule this year is very, very weak in the preseason. They're still in the Big Ten, but it's a different approach. Ohio State plays Texas. It's high risk, high reward. Right out of the gate, you have Arch Manning coming to the Horseshoe. We'll see how that goes, but that should be a great game, and I'm glad the teams are playing it. On September 27th, they go to Washington. Do not deny that can be a really unique game. Washington's got one of the freakier quarterbacks in college football. That'll be interesting. October 11th, they have the Illini. They should win, but that's a physical team. November 1st, the big game, Penn State. And then on the 29th, they go up to Ann Arbor to play the Michigan Wolverines. Obviously, it's a balanced schedule throughout. Notre Dame plays a big week 1 game as well. They go to Miami, but their schedule is really, really, really front-loaded. Notre Dame, they've got Miami the first weekend. That's the Sunday night game at Miami. Get an off week. Texas A&M comes to South Bend. So your first 2 games are arguably your toughest. That is very rare. Like, that's hardly ever happens. After that, they've still got some more tough games in the first half of the season. They got to go to Arkansas. They got Boise State at home, a playoff team last year. They've got to go and stay at home, but they play USC. They play at Pittsburgh late in the year, but the November slate overall for Notre Dame is very weak. If they get to that point in November, they've got 1 loss or less, they can probably win the rest of those games and rest some of their stars, which would be huge for them headed into the playoffs. While on the other side, Ohio State plays Michigan the last weekend, and they're trying to get to the Big Ten title game too. So it just shows you how wild college football schedules can be. I wanted to put those back to back to kind of explain it. It is truly a unique scenario. Next up, I want to talk about Clemson. This is a team that I think a lot of people are talking about, and they should, but they have a few holes that I want to discuss. And please comment down below if you agree, disagree, etc. Number one, my biggest concern with the Clemson Tigers, and Dabo even commented about this during spring, a little concerned about the back end of the defense in terms of depth. Starters, I'm not so worried about, but attrition and injuries, unfortunately, are the number one reason teams either win or lose games. If they lose Jaden Lucas or anybody else, Ashton Hampton, etc., how deep are they at corner and safety, especially safety? I'm not sure, and I need to see it. The athleticism and the length and all that is there. They've got some really talented players. Don't get me wrong, but I need to see it in terms of the ability to go out there and make it happen when they're in a long game and a team finds a way to score on them. Are they going to be able to rotate in at the back end? Additionally, running back is just kind of weird. Like they recruited a big-time running back in this class and a kid that everybody's excited about in Gideon Davidson. And I was watching his film and like, he's a dude. Kid out of Virginia that was recruited nationally, but you don't like freshmen playing right away. Well, one of the things they've done is they've moved Adam Randall to running back. He's a big receiver, didn't work out there. They're moving him as a senior, like he's going to play in Clemson's backfield. How's that going to work? That's really hard to say. They've got some other running backs too, but the good news is their O-line is loaded. The one thing you cannot argue with is Dabo, when he recruits, it's kids that really want to stay, and their offensive linemen in particular do not leave. Juniors, seniors, fifth-year seniors. Very highly recruited kids. They've done a good job of cultivating them and keeping them on campus. This is a group that will be possibly top 5 in the nation, giving Clemson a chance to maul most teams in the ACC, to be quite honest. With that being said, still don't know how running back's going to work, but the other extension, you got Cade Klubnik handing it off and throwing it, and the wide receiver group is really good. I mean, really good. I was looking at it right before I did this podcast, and I'm like, if I could only pick one of these guys, which one would I take? Because I think they have 3 guys that could potentially be a number one if they're healthy, depending on what you're trying to do offensively. Antonio Williams, they got TJ. At the end of the year, TJ Moore, even though he was a freshman, he might have been their best receiver at the end. Bryant Wesco was a freshman. He was another guy that was really good. Both of them are going to be sophomores. It's going to be very interesting to see how they can light it up down the field because they should have pass protection. Defensively, it's not much different in the trenches. They're loaded there. They got Parker. They've also got not just a good group of defensive tackles. I'd say top 4 in the nation at D tackle with Peter Woods leading the way. You could argue it's number 1, probably not as deep as Georgia or maybe as Bama, but the very top of the board, especially with having it'd be hard to go against Peter Woods as your number 1. If you're looking at D tackle this year, they're going to be really hard to stop. Do I think they're going to just blow the doors off everybody with their D-line? No, there'll be somebody that gives them fits, but in combination with their quarterback play, their experienced O-line, that speedy wide receiver group, that's a really good football team. My only other question, how does the O-line perform in big games? Like they didn't play well against Georgia last year. They had moments where they struggled against Texas, really big, like literally size. How will they do in those games if they make the playoff? That's something we'll have to wait for. But they got Miami. They've got teams in the ACC that are at least competitive. Somebody like Georgia Tech that's physical. Maybe they play them in the ACC title game. Who knows? The ACC is so wide open. Louisville possibly. We'll see. As for their schedule, it is wild. They've got LSU out of the gate, another one of those big-time games early in the season. September 13th, this game hasn't been talked about much. Clemson plays at Georgia Tech. Not saying Georgia Tech's unbelievable, but it's on the road. That's a good team. UNC on the road, October 4th. I doubt they're going to beat Clemson, but it's another game where you just take attrition. SMU, October 18th. It's at home, but SMU, Rhett Lashlee, give that guy credit. What they did last year was miraculous. Now they're kind of the hunted instead of the hunter. But with Kevin Jennings, etc., that's a formidable opponent. November 1st, Duke, who I think is the most underrated team. If you're a betting person, and I'm not, but their FanDuel over-under is 6.5. I think that's low with Mensa. It's at home for Clemson, but Duke is really good. They're especially in the trenches. They've got a quarterback. They've got a culture. They've got a system. Don't discount that game. November 8th is Florida State. I don't think Florida State's going to beat them, but another team that's very physical, very big. I think Florida State will at least beat up Clemson. It's one of those games you're going to come out with some bumps and bruises. And then November 14th, a Friday game on the road at Louisville. That place will be bananas. And then they've got South Carolina to close the season on the road. Like, that is tough. So let's see how Clemson handles that schedule. It will not be easy. When we come back, we're going to finish up with some more teams and discuss like what it is to win a national title. What do these teams need to do in terms of gathering the right talent? That is next here on the Portal Podcast. All right. If you're running a business and you've missed phone calls, you've left money on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If that person didn't answer, you did wait. Did you wait? No, probably not. I know I don't. Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. So the whole team can share one phone number, and that way everybody can share the responsibility of anything that comes your way. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On customers 20% off the first 6 months. OpenPhone.com/LockedOnCollege. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnCollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, let's talk a little bit about the big box here again. You got to recruit well. You got to retain. Don't overuse the portal. Let's make sure we know those baselines before I go into these last 4 teams for today, because those are parts of the culture. Culture wins you a lot of games, and it will also lose you a lot of games. The teams that make a run usually don't use the portal as much. Arizona State, a team we get ready to talk about, being the exception last year. But how much is your team using the portal? So let's talk a little bit about some of the key teams that I'm also curious about. I want to go with Boise State first because I think they're the lock to be the G5 representative, barring some kind of injury. Maddox Matson, he gets no respect. He's not the biggest guy. He's 5'10", 5'11", but he's an accurate quarterback, puts the ball where he needs to go. They lost Ashton Jeanty, I get it. But their O-line's all seniors, fifth-year seniors for the most part. They're still going to be able to run the ball. They've got some talented players that are skill players. Maybe not first and second round picks, but they're still pretty good. Defensive tackle Braxton Feely, this is something to watch. I use Pro Football Focus a lot just for snap counts. He played 584 snaps last year. If you're going to make a run, that is way too high for your D lineman. I need to see some younger guys come in, step up, and maybe a portal guy too. One or the other. Probably wouldn't meet up. They need both. If you're going to make a run, you've got to have D linemen that have 250 to 350. Go look at Georgia. Go look at Bama year in, year out. Go look at LSU. Go look at Texas. Their depth of the D line is a difference maker. That's the difference between P4 and G5 in general, and that could be the biggest problem for them. But they do have Cage Casey. He's a pretty darn good left tackle. Can he be even better this year? He's a guy that's got a chance to play in the NFL. And then their schedule is interesting. They play at Notre Dame October 4th. Irish fans should not take that game lightly. October 24th, Friday game, Dan Mullen. Somebody like that would probably love to see it, even though it's the rival. Be good for the entire state of Nevada. He's at UNLV, but Nevada, somebody like that, like nobody looking at it. Dan Mullen and everybody in that state would be watching that game. It would be good for that league. If it happened, I couldn't name a single player at Nevada. Friday games, I always like to highlight, though. Teams in that league, besides Boise State, how many could you even name? I probably couldn't put it together because it changes so much, but that's also why Boise has a very small room for error. They lose to Notre Dame on the road. They're not really going to get dinged for that. But they need to go win their league and win the rest of these games. Pretty much run it. They lost to Oregon, and they were competitive last year. They got the bid. But they had Ashton Jeanty. This year, they're probably going to have a smaller room for error. I mean, just not trying to be mean, but they're probably going to have less. So that's a really interesting factor. Ole Miss, this is a team that I'm like all over the map with. They could go a lot of different directions. They could be 8-4. They could be 10-2. Austin Simmons is a new starter, but he has a cannon. He's athletic. He's a kid that graduated high school 2 years early. He's that intelligent. He had a 5.0 GPA, special student. And above all else, he's a young man that just gets it in terms of learning how to be a teammate, learning how to juggle time management. He's going to be a leader from day one on that field. The big games for them are, man, they got a pretty tough schedule. LSU, September 27th. They've got Georgia, October 18th on the road. Remember, they smoked Georgia last year. They're going to remember that. They've got at Oklahoma, October 25th. On November 1st, they got South Carolina. That is a rough slate. A couple other comments here. Dazon Stribling and Caden Lee, that will be as good a 1-2 punch as there is in the SEC. I remember Caden very well from high school. Great guy. I think he will lead the SEC in total receptions. He'll be around 85 to 90, if not more. Elite player, great route runner, great hands. Played for Cam Newton's 7-on-7 team. He's from the Atlanta area. He's a really good player. And on top of that, they've got a bevy of different running backs. They got 2 or 3 different guys that could start in game 1 and 2 or 3 different guys that could start at the end of the regular season. They'll be good. Offensive line's been a little banged up. Patrick Kudus, kid that transferred in from Arkansas, has been hurt at times. Concerned about that. In a recent scrimmage, the defense did very well. Xavier Harris, Cam Franklin, and a whole bunch of other guys. They got size. They've started to finally recruit the high school ranks, especially in state. Much better. That William Eccles, like they've got some guys. But it's still Suntarian Perkins that is the key ringleader. He's probably going to be one of the top 3 guys in the league in sacks. He's probably going to be the most well-rounded linebacker / pass rusher in the league. And he's a guy that's going to be a first-round pick. Elite football player. In the secondary, there's some questions. That's their biggest bugaboo. I don't know how that's going to play out, but they brought in several transfers, mixing it in. If they don't make the playoff, there's a really high percentage chance it's the back end that caused that problem. Kansas State, this one is interesting. You've got a quarterback that's returning. It's very talented. You've got Chris Kleiman. It's a really good coach. They've got chemistry in that offense. They got a running back that's just a jet. You got Will Swanson, like that blue collar guy that you love as an H-back tight end. This is a Kansas State team you can get behind, and they can just grind you into the dirt. Avery Johnson, obviously, being the athletic, physical freak that he is at quarterback, is going to gain a lot of the attention, and that's fine. Again, superstar running back talent. But it's the linemen, the tight ends, the defensive line linebackers, all the little things they do. And it starts with Farmageddon this weekend. If they're going to make a playoff run, it'll be the guys that are the unnamed players that make it. It'll be the guys that find a way to set up Avery or anybody else on a bootleg or a scramble or just a quarterback run, whatever it is. It'll be those guys. And that's the way Kansas State has always been. There's nothing wrong with that. And to that point, linebacker Austin Romaine had 621 snaps last year, one of the better linebackers in the Big 12 and the country. Watch out for him. Jace Brown, he had 47 catches, over 800 yards last year. He could be a 60-catch guy, maybe 65-catch guy this year. Big-time player, makes big plays down the field. 17.5 yards a catch last year. Of course, Avery Johnson, 2,712 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 picks. But he had a stretch there towards the middle part of the year. Teams started to figure him out a little bit, and he got throwing the ball to the wrong team. That number needs to be 6 or 7 at the most this year. And then they can probably, keyword, probably make a run to get into the playoff. But again, they start with Iowa State. Arizona State's good. Baylor's good, etc. It's going to be hard no matter who they play if they make it to the Big 12 title game. And their schedule, okay, again, Iowa State, August 23rd, over in Ireland. October 4th, at Baylor. That's a tough game. November 1st, Texas Tech with all those transfers. To end the year, at Oak State, November 15th, at Utah, November 22nd. That's pretty rough. It's going to be interesting. Can they go better than 9-3? I mean, they could always lose another game along that road. It's possible, but I like Kansas State. They're my pick to win the Big 12. I think they're a really good football team. And maybe just maybe Kansas State is a team that could win one or more playoff games if Avery Johnson takes that big step. That's probably my biggest question beyond just finding a second receiver so your stud doesn't always get double covered. I think the defense will be consistent. The O-line will be consistent. You got Swanson and some of these other guys that are just the grinders. Are they going to be explosive enough? I need to see that. As for Arizona State, this is the last team I'm going to preview today. Kenny Dillingham, I thought, deserved all the credit in the world. Candidate for any award you can imagine in terms of coaching last year. Well-deserved there. Sam Leavitt, of course, Cam Scatterboo is gone. But all the transfers they took, they threw out the metrics. Arizona State was the one team that took a ton of transfers and not only made the playoff, they were good. Most teams that really got to go the portal route, they might make a run to get close, but they don't have the chemistry and the culture that ASU did. I don't know what Kenny did. I don't know how they sold it, but it was good. And on top of that, why would you doubt him now? Because you got a future NFL quarterback. The running back room is pretty deep. They got Jordan Tyson, who's one of the most explosive wide receivers in the country, coming back. He got hurt against Arizona. That sucked. He didn't get a play in the playoff. And you also have Xavier Alford, probably a guy that's not talked about enough. 85 tackles, 2 picks, 5 PBUs last year at safety. It's one of the better safeties in the country. And they got like somewhere close to 20 starters back. Very veteran team. I know a lot of them were transfers. But based on last year, you got to consider Arizona State a team that can make a run and make a team or two really unhappy they played them. I don't think they're going to win the national title, but would I be shocked if they made the Final Four this year? No, I wouldn't be shocked. They're a team with the NFL-level quarterback and the coaching they have. That is a possibility. Here's their schedule. September 6th, they go to Mississippi State. That is a weird game. Arizona State at Mississippi State. September 20th, at Baylor. September 26th, TCU. They can throw the football. That could be a really high-scoring game. The 11th of October, at Utah. October 18th, they host Texas Tech. November 1st, Iowa State. They don't have the easiest of Big 12 schedules. I mean, Iowa State, Baylor, and Utah on the road is not exactly perfect. It's one of the reasons I pick, at least for the regular season, Kansas State to win the regular season title. I think their schedule is slightly easier. Before I get out of here, 2 notes. Number 1, tomorrow will be part 2 of this. I'm going to feature 8 or 9 teams, something like that, tomorrow to kind of talk about, again, which teams can make a run at the playoff, do something in the playoff, how they get there, schedules and all that. And number 2, again, the teams that win, whether it was teams I talked about today or the other ones I talk about tomorrow, your favorite team, culture. That is the new word in college football because the portal has ruined many rosters. Ask anybody that follows Florida State. I also run Locked On Seminoles. I can assure you, Florida State's culture was in the gutter last year with the wrong portal players, some guys leaving, NIL. There's a lot of conflicting stuff that happens. What's the culture for whichever program you follow going into this season, and how many transfers did you take? If it's north of 15 transfers you took this year, that's iffy. Again, Arizona State was really the only one to do anything that took a ton of transfers. I think Ole Miss might be that team this year, but I really trust their quarterback. But there aren't many. What kind of culture do you have? We're going to talk about this again tomorrow in part 2 with the championship run possibilities. Thank you again. Please like and subscribe to the Portal Podcast. We will see you again tomorrow.